My mother-in-law's 35th wedding anniversary dinner didn't just cost us thousands, it shattered everything I thought I knew about family. When Thomas told me we'd be organizing a luxury dinner for his parents' anniversary, I had to bite my tongue. Not because I was against honoring Harold and Vivian, they'd been kind in their own passive way, but because I knew exactly what came with any event that involved his sister, Amanda. That woman had a way of making every gathering revolve around her. She was like gravity, everything and everyone bent around her orbit, including Thomas. And no matter how many red flags she waved, his parents acted like she shined in gold. I think they'd love something elegant, Thomas said, showing me the reservation he'd made at Los Chateaux, the most exclusive, over-the-top French restaurant in the city. I stared at the email on his phone like it was a death sentence. We can't afford that, I said gently, I know. But, it's one night. It's their 35th. We'll just split the bill. Amanda and Derek will pitch in. That was the moment I should have pushed back. Not just at the dinner plans, but at the blind faith he continued to put in people who never showed him the same loyalty. But I didn't. I told myself it would be fine. I told myself Amanda wouldn't turn it into a spectacle. That she would respect the fact that we were hosting. That, for once, Thomas wouldn't be walked over. I was wrong on all counts. The night arrived, and we were dressed like we were attending a royal gala. Thomas looked sharp in his navy suit, still adjusting his tie nervously as we pulled up to the valet. I wore a dark emerald dress, something classy but not too showy. I kept reminding myself this was about family. About honoring a milestone. About making peace. The restaurant was straight out of a movie. Crystal chandeliers, fresh orchids on every table, and a wine cellar with bottles older than my marriage. No prices on the menu, a silent threat to anyone without an unlimited bank account. The maitre d' greeted us by name and led us to a long, candlelit table for 8. Thomas's parents were already seated, and Amanda's absence was expected. She arrived 30 minutes late, sweeping into the room like she was doing us a favor. A designer clutch in one hand, Derek trailing behind like her personal assistant. Her voice was loud enough for half the restaurant to hear as she announced, "Sorry, darlings. Derek forgot where I put my sapphire heels, and I refuse to wear anything else to this dump." She kissed her mother's cheek, hugged her father, and threw a quick glance in our direction. "Elaine." "Thomas," she said like we were the help. Thomas barely flinched. I reached under the table and squeezed his hand. "Deep breath," I whispered. He smiled faintly, then the games began. Amanda grabbed the wine list from the sommelier like it was a joke. "We'll take a bottle of the 92 Chateau Margaux." "No wait, make that too. It's a celebration after all." She didn't even look at the rest of us. The server raised an eyebrow, but nodded and vanished. Course after course followed. Truffle carpaccio, lobster flown in that morning, a chef's tasting of exotic meats. She ordered enough food for a table twice our size, waving off our polite protests. "It's a big night. Daddy deserves the best, right?" I glanced at the empty wine bottles stacking up beside Derek's chair. Thomas hadn't touched his drink. He was staring down at the menu, pretending to calculate something in his head. I could see the anxiety building in his jaw. But he said nothing. Then Amanda turned to me, tilted her head, and smiled. "I hope you brought your platinum card, Elaine. Because we're just getting started." That's when I knew this wasn't just a dinner. This was a test. And I had no idea how much it was about to cost us. The waiter slid the bill onto the table like it was just another receipt. But what I saw made my throat close. 6 figures. For one meal. The dinner dragged on longer than any of us wanted to admit. Between Amanda's endless demands and Harold's performative toasts about family unity, I felt like I was watching a reality show where we were the only ones who hadn't signed up. At some point, Vivian pulled me aside in the restroom and whispered, "Thank you for putting this together." Amanda said it was her idea, but I know better. I wanted to laugh. Amanda? Of course she'd claim credit. That was textbook Amanda. But the bigger concern was Derek. He hadn't said a word all night. He just nodded along, refilled his wine, and occasionally patted Amanda's hand like she was a rabid dog he was trying to calm, when the final course, a flaming soufflé that Amanda insisted on, despite no one else ordering dessert, was cleared away. The table finally exhaled. I reached for my clutch, ready to get this over with, then the waiter arrived. He placed a thick leather booklet in front of Thomas, smiled politely, and walked away. Thomas opened it. I watched the color drain from his face. What's wrong? I asked quietly. He turned it toward me. $100, 127.49. I froze and my stomach flipped. My brain immediately thought, there's been a mistake. That can't be right. We didn't order that much. We didn't even drink. We barely ate. Before I could say anything, Amanda snatched the bill out of Thomas's hands and let out an exaggerated gasp. Oh my God, we broke 6 figures. Honestly, iconic. She looked around the table like we were all supposed to cheer. No one did. I'm sorry, I said, standing a little straighter. There has to be an error. We only ordered 2 entrees and water. No wine. No appetizers. None of the dessert. The waiter overheard and returned. Amanda waved him off. Relax, Elaine. We've got this. Right, Derek? Derek blinked. Actually. He patted his suit jacket. Then his pants. I think I forgot my wallet at home. Amanda gasped. Us too. She giggled. Isn't that crazy? I turned to Thomas. His eyes were glassy. His lips parted like he wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come out. And then Harold, his own father, cleared his throat and said, well, you two did plan the dinner. It hit me like a slap. No, I said, my voice sharp. We invited you. We didn't ask you to bankrupt us. I pulled the waiter aside and asked him to break down the charges. Turns out someone had ordered 2 bottles of wine that cost $12,000 each. The final bill, after removing what Thomas and I had actually consumed, came down to $8,342.80. Still outrageous, but at least not financially ruinous. I'll pay for what we ate, I said firmly. The rest is not our responsibility. Amanda's smile faded. Her tone dropped an octave. Wow. You're really doing this? You're going to humiliate our parents on their anniversary? And that was the moment Thomas finally opened his mouth, and for the first time, I didn't recognize the man I married. He spent his entire life being the quiet one, the peacemaker, the pushover. But in that moment, he was none of those things. Thomas stood slowly. His chair scraped against the marble floor, loud enough to silence the table. Even Amanda, mid-eye roll, paused. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam his fist. But the look in his eyes? That was enough to make everyone stop breathing. I've let this go on long enough, he said quietly. Amanda, you've disrespected me for years. You walk into every room like you own it. You take, and when someone says no, you turn the entire family against them. Amanda scoffed. Oh, please. Don't make this about your hurt feelings, Thomas. It's dinner. Get over it. But he kept going, voice steady, gaze locked on his parents now. And you too, Mom, Dad, you've watched her do this. You've encouraged it. You've always made excuses for her. When she crashed my car and blamed it on me, you believed her. When she ruined our wedding rehearsal by showing up drunk, you laughed it off. And when I got a promotion last year, you didn't even call, but Amanda gets a parking ticket dismissed and you send her flowers. Silence, dead silence. I didn't breathe. Vivian looked like she'd been slapped. Harold just blinked. Amanda sat there, slowly folding her napkin like nothing he said mattered. I'm done paying for your approval, Thomas said, reaching into his wallet. Elaine and I will cover what we ordered. The rest is your problem. He placed his card on the bill, turned to the waiter, and said, split it. 2 checks. Amanda exploded. You ungrateful little coward. You don't do this to family. You don't make a scene in public, no, Thomas interrupted. You don't get to define what family means anymore. And that was it. He sat back down, took my hand, and didn't say another word. I felt my eyes sting. Not from shame. From pride. For the first time, I saw the man I married stand taller than the people who spent years shrinking him, but I also knew Amanda wasn't going to let this go quietly. She never did. She thought her tantrum would break him. Instead, it broke the illusion she'd built her whole life around. Amanda slammed her glass down so hard the stem snapped clean off. The shards scattered across the table, catching candlelight. Like tiny blades. The entire restaurant turned toward us. It was the reaction she wanted, an audience. She lived for scenes like this. Drama was her currency. Attention was her oxygen. I can't believe this. She shrieked. You're choosing her over your own blood? Over your family? Don't you see what she's doing to you, Thomas? She's manipulating you, she's poisoning you against us. I stared at her, speechless. Not out of fear, but out of amazement. She truly believed she was the victim. That she had a divine right to Thomas's loyalty, no matter how she abused it. Vivian finally spoke. Amanda, lower your voice, no. Amanda snapped. He humiliated us. On our anniversary. Our anniversary, Vivian corrected. Softly, her voice trembling with something I hadn't heard from her before, doubt. Thomas didn't flinch. This isn't about Elaine. It's about boundaries. Something this family has never respected. Amanda's face twisted into something almost unrecognizable. You're so weak, Thomas. Always were. That's why you need her to speak for. You. You've never had a spine. Elaine, walk away, I told myself. Don't engage. But I couldn't, actually, I said calmly. I didn't say anything. You just finally ran out of room to talk over him. Amanda blinked. Derek cleared his throat. For the first time that night, he opened his mouth. Maybe we should just pay our part and go, Amanda. She froze. What did you say? She asked, as if she'd misheard. I said, we should pay. We ordered the wine. The appetizers. We made the choices. It's not fair to dump it on them. The silence was louder than her scream had been. For once, she had no comeback. Just wide eyes and a face that couldn't decide whether to cry or explode. She stood up without a word, grabbed her clutch, and walked out. Derek hesitated a moment, then followed, leaving behind a tip in cash and a look of quiet shame in Vivian. And Harold remained seated. And for the first time, neither of them defended her. Later that night, Thomas did something he'd never done in 32 years. He wrote his parents a letter that finally told the truth. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He wrote. And in every word, he buried a version of himself they'd never get back. That night, after we got home, the silence between us wasn't awkward, it was sacred. Thomas poured 2 glasses of water and handed me one with a faint smile. His hands were shaking. I knew it wasn't from fear. It was adrenaline. Release. Grief. Years of repression crashing down all at once. I need to say more, he finally whispered. Not to them. For me. He pulled out his laptop, opened a blank document, and just started typing. It wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was honest. He wrote about growing up in Amanda's shadow, being told to be the bigger person, while she mocked, lied, and manipulated. He described the ache of celebrating milestones alone, graduating from college without a single family member showing up because Amanda had a nervous episode the same day. He recalled how, when he first brought me home, his parents couldn't even remember my name by dessert, too busy praising Amanda's latest vacation photos. I always thought if I kept quiet, he typed, if I didn't make waves, if I played the role of the good son, one day I'd be enough. But silence doesn't earn love. It just keeps you invisible. He paused, looked at me. Do you think this is too much? No, I said. I think it's the first time you've told the truth. The next morning, he printed the letter, signed it, and mailed it. Not an email. Not a text. He wanted them to hold it. To feel the weight of the words. There was no dramatic reply, just a short voicemail from Vivian 2 days later. We got your letter. We didn't know you felt this way. We'll talk soon. But that wasn't the moment that mattered most. It was what happened after Thomas started therapy. He called the same day he sent the letter. And when his therapist asked him why now, he said, because last night, I saw myself. And I don't want to lose that person again. Week by week, I watched him grow. He stopped apologizing for existing. He stopped taking Amanda's calls. He started saying no, to his family, to his boss, to anything that tried to shrink him back into the man he used to be. But the real shift came when Amanda tried to crawl her way back in, and found the door locked from the inside. She was the queen of our family for decades, but her throne finally cracked under the weight of truth and boundaries. Amanda's calls started coming in more frequently after the letter. At first, Thomas ignored them, hoping silence would teach her the lesson. But she was relentless. Texts full of guilt trips, late-night voicemails dripping with fake concern, and even attempts to show up unannounced at our home. It was exhausting. One afternoon, Amanda showed up at the door, a fake smile plastered on her face. Thomas, can we talk? Just for 5 minutes. He looked at me, then back at her, calm but firm. No, Amanda. We can't. You need to respect our space. She pushed, I'm your sister. You don't just shut me out. Actually, Thomas said, I'm learning what it means to set boundaries. And I need you to respect that. She left without another word, her usual mask cracking at the same time. Something surprising happened. Even Harold and Vivian, who had long ignored Thomas's struggles, started showing small signs of respect. They called less demanding, listened more when Thomas spoke, and even praised some of his recent successes. Derek, Amanda's husband, quietly pulled Thomas aside one day. She's been impossible, but I'm done playing her game. You deserve better. Our little family, me, Thomas, and even the distance we kept from the chaos, grew stronger. The walls Amanda built to control us began to crumble, and as Amanda's influence faded, so did her ability to manipulate. The final test came when the family gathered again, and this time, Amanda sat alone. Sometimes the hardest boundaries are the ones we set with those we love most. Months later, the family gathered again, not to celebrate an anniversary, but simply to share a meal. This time, Amanda wasn't there. The empty chair where she should have sat was a silent testament to how much had changed. Harold and Vivian, now quieter and more reflective, made an effort to engage with Thomas on his terms, not theirs. The tension that once filled every room softened. For the first time, I saw genuine pride in Thomas's eyes, not the resigned acceptance of a man living in someone else's shadow. Amanda had become a distant memory, no longer the puppet master pulling strings, but a cautionary tale of what happens when control is wielded without respect. Elaine and Thomas, stronger than ever, finally carved out their own space. A space free from manipulation, free from guilt, free from the chains of an unhealthy past, because in the end, family isn't just blood. It's respect, boundaries, and love that lifts rather than weighs down. Sometimes the hardest boundaries are the ones we set with those we love most. But setting them is how we find ourselves again.